Hello and welcome to another video and podcast from FantasyFootballScout.co.uk. My name is David and today I am very, very pleased and very honoured to be joined by a very special guest in comedian Tom Davis. How are you doing? I'm still sort of pinching myself that we've managed to get you on the stream, to be honest. It turns out you play FPL. You're one of the many millions who enjoy the game. How are you feeling this Friday afternoon as the deadline comes along?
I don't know about enjoy playing it. It's become more stressful than any of my work. Actually, it's I'm obsessed with it and have been for many years. But yeah, it's I'm still kicking myself quite a lot because I've made the same mistakes I made last year, and I seem to make every year, and then I have to go into week two panicking about them.
Yeah, it's certainly something that takes over your life. I mean, you mentioned there you make a lot of mistakes. Can you talk us through what some of those are? Because there may be people in the chat who perhaps can empathise with them and learn with you.
So I always try and do. For some reason, I always think it's quite good to do a bit of a sort of differential. So I've got these in, so I can't even, so my pronunciation will be all over the place. So I went for Garnacho. I just thought Garnacho. I thought would. I don't know. I underestimated Wolves like a lot of people and went double United. And I should have really had my heart set on Jackson from Chelsea. Sort of now I've got that thing of I've got a few options I can do this week. Odegaard's playing deeper than I thought he would. So yeah, Saka. So obviously Saka, Foden, and Rashford are sort of pretty nailed on, but Odegaard and Garnacho have sort of I've got to look at a way of getting rid of them. And I'm not sure about Anana either, if I'm honest.
Yeah, it's certainly after one game week, it can be easy to have a look at what's in the team and think, oh, why did I pick these guys? And I think sometimes when you spend so much time on it as well, it can make you overthink things and things like that. You were caught tweeting earlier on today that you felt it was becoming an obsession. You mentioned you played it for a number of years. Like, why are you still doing it? Why are you still here
I
punishing
love it.
yourself?
I think it's better than gambling. I think it's better than any bet. I think it makes football. I think it makes a weekend and watching any game. You sit there and watch most games now, and then you've got a sort of vested interest. I've been playing it on and off since sort of. I used to do the draft with a group of friends, so we did the proper original fantasy league. I did that for years, and obviously then when this became what it is now, I've sort of become more and more obsessed. And I play in a comedians league that's pretty competitive, and playing a league with a group of mates. So I'm pretty competitive with it, and usually do okay. It's just these first few weeks, and like I say, I sort of kicking myself. Really, I probably should have. My gut was telling me I would. I up until the deadline, I had a team with Sanchez in goal and Maddison instead of Garnacho, and for some reason, I thought let's just have a bit of fun. I think as well that it should still be fun doing this on a basis that you should every now and again take a bit of a risk. I just don't think those risks should be taken in the first week of the season. But yeah, so I'm sort of now sort of just undecided. It's a hard one because I sort of don't want to take Odegaard out before he plays against Palace because I think their team might change quite dramatically now with Timber out, and I think he might play more where he played more like a 10 now with Partey and Declan behind him. Yeah, so it's just worth when I come in for when I look at Richarlison coming in for Garnacho in that midfield, and then I think it's a pretty solid team. Then I kind of want Maddison, and I'd like Jackson really coming in for those fixtures they've got coming up.
Yeah. So have you? What I was going to ask you about is, have you made a transfer yet for game week 2? Or are you still mulling things over? Well, you obviously clearly are mulling things, but yeah.
I'm still mulling things over. There's a way of getting, of looking at sort of Sanchez coming in for Onana, and then that gives me enough to take Mbama up to Jackson, which would be a -4, or I put Richardson in for Garnacho because I've got 2 million in the bank.
Ah, nice.
I'm not taking a -4, and then Tottenham have got great fixtures. It's just putting a lot of pressure on Richardson. Do I think I'm going to get a return?
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, I think that Richarlison, from what I've seen of him playing for Brazil, arguably has what it takes to be a number 9. He just hasn't quite done it for Spurs yet. That's the thing.
He was great at Everton. He's a brilliant player at Everton. I thought he was a great bit of business, and actually watching Tottenham against Brentford, I think they're going to be attacking. I think they're going to be an exciting team. I'd love to get Maddison. Like I said, again, I could take Onana out and put in Sanchez, and then go Garnacho to Maddison. But
Yeah.
taking up -4, and last year I'd have won nearly every league I'm in, but I took an insane amount of -4. Like, yeah, an insane amount.
Yeah, but the thing is, they're so tempting sometimes, aren't they? And you can tell yourself that you're
Yeah,
going to win it back and make the difference.
yeah, yeah. I saw that there's a school of thought as well as if you look at Areola from West Ham and Turner, actually you could look at those two, and then their fixtures actually. I think there's one week where they both. I think West Ham have got Man City and Forest have got Liverpool. Aside that, actually, you could almost be interchanging them quite cleverly, and you'd have 2 4 million goalkeepers. And I think West Ham will be pretty tight once the signings that are coming in come in. I think actually, weirdly, I think Alvarez and more Prowse, if they play this weekend, I think we might be a little bit more solid. I think the way that Moyes will set up than we have been.
Yeah, the good signings actually, and well, we've actually got a question in the chat from Mark, who, of course, zoning in on, of course, your interest in West Ham. Are you tempted
Yeah.
by Jared Bowen, who obviously it sounds like you could also get to him if you wanted to? If you think about Maddison, he's around the same price, and he's famously on fire as well. So
Yeah. I love Jared. I think he's a brilliant player. I just worry about the creativity. I actually weirdly think with Ward-Prowse coming in, quite a lot of our goals might be. I think set pieces will be really dangerous. It makes once we're through these next few fixtures, it actually makes Zuma and Agard and should we get the guy from the Stuttgart? I can't pronounce his name. The Greek lad. It makes them very interested. So yeah, I don't. I think Chelsea will be pretty solid. I think they look quite solid against. I might be wrong. So and I think just going in, you kind of want. I know that I thought nearly all my Twitter's either golf or fantasy football, and you kind of want to be going into having Tottenham and Chelsea players in this next, alongside Arsenal. Their fixtures are all good, really.
yeah,
I mean, I've got Foden, but I don't want to drop Foden. I think Foden will become pretty integral to the way City are playing now.
yeah,
I think, Odegaard's the one at the moment. I'm sort of flip-flopping. And also Rashford. It's going to be interesting. I don't want to get rid of Rashford yet, but it'll just be interesting to see how he plays against Tottenham and then Forest. I had Mason Mount last year and I hung on to him for far too long, just thinking he'd come good, and that's a real killer at times in this game. You've got to know what, sometimes you've got
yeah.
to, get rid
Timing is
of.
everything, isn't it? You've got to do
Yeah.
it at the right time. And I suppose one
Yeah.
question I'm going to posit you is perhaps the idea of rolling a transfer for this week, as in the Man United game, maybe there's an opportunity for them to counter-attack in that game and you perhaps hold on to Garnacho as a bit of a differential.
Was so bad.
Oh, you didn't
again.
like him?
I'm really. I don't ever like to be really negative about anyone because I think it's I've had myself trolls and whatever, but he just didn't look at the mix, and I thought once Sancho came on, they looked a bit better. Also, I think United are going to once Højlund comes in, once they've got a proper number 9 and Rashford goes back on the left, I think Rashford will hold serious points. But at the moment, I think they just look a bit disjointed. I think Mason's going to take a while to settle in. I think, but my worry would be if Garnacho doesn't return, Foden for some reason doesn't play 90 minutes, Haaland has just played 100 minutes for Man City. It then leaves me essentially with Watkins, Odegaard, who, if he plays deep, it's a really difficult place to get points. And you can't, in these early weeks, you've got to be hitting 50, 60 points a week, really. And so it's hard. Your man from Brentford as well, Brian, is
Berman. Yeah, he looks good.
Yeah, he looks good, and but I don't know. He just feels like a bit. It feels like he's Richardson. I could put in my team. Like he's someone, or I go Odegaard down to no. But I mean that doesn't solve the problem, does it?
There's so much to think about, isn't there?
Or I go Onana to Sanchez. Sanchez has got a great run, and then I bring Jackson in up front.
Yeah. Well, what I find so interesting is just how much time and effort and thought you've put into this. And what I'm really interested to hear is how that compares with those other comedians. Now, some of those comedians might not want you to tell us that they're in that league, but we're so intrigued as to who's in that league. And compared to them, who is the one who puts the most time into it? Is it you?
Ian Sterling and me chat a lot about it. Ian Sterling, he's incredible at fantasy league. Ian Sterling's he's amazing. I think like Joe Wilkinson, I chat to quite a lot. Joe's really good at it. Russell Howard, I don't chat to a lot about it, but he's always he's amazing. Russell, he's always in the mix. Richard Osman is very good. Yeah. So it's quite competitive. It's sort of like last year. It was really up and down. You were really sort of like, yeah, you could be 10th one week, and then by the end it became very tight between me and Russ. But I took an insane amount of, like I say, free transfers. If I'd done half, put it this way, if I'd just done half of the -4s I'd done, I'd have won that league by about 30 points.
Oh wow.
So that's why I'm really like trying not to this week go. That's why I want to be like Will Jackson again. West Ham at home. Are they gonna? How are we gonna play? Are we gonna be? Are we going to be quite tight and quite steady? I think if Alvarez is playing, Paqueta and Ward-Prowse, it's a pretty solid midfield. Zuma and Agard together are pretty good. I think it actually could be quite a solid back line. So would that mean Richarlison gets United? I think United versus Tottenham's going to be a pretty open game.
Yeah, it's going to be lots of goals, I think, especially with the way that both teams play football. You know, Spurs want to play this new attacking style. United are good on the counter-attack, so should be goals.
Yeah. But then you know what happened is I'll put Richarlison in that Chelsea.
That's what always happens. And just checking back in on your rivals in that league. Are they the sort of people that you have been speaking to this week? Are you coy about revealing on the stream who you want to get because you don't want them to get the march on you?
I think it's pretty. Look, this game has grown massively. Like, you know, I'm obsessed with that and I think it's such a brilliant hobby. But it's grown to the point now where if you look at a lot of people's teams, so many people have this, like if you play it to the point I play it and listen to podcasts and watch stuff, and I'm a football geek anyway, I'm obsessed with football. It's like you end up seeing the same sort of teams. I think a lot of people in that sort of top, but the only way, like last year was doing things that are like, you know, bringing Zuma for a few games where, you know, I was very fortunate and he scored goals. And if you are taking those -4s, you've almost got to be really savvy and take a real risk. It's like now I look at Maddison, I watch Matt, and I think James is a brilliant player, and watching him against Brentford, I think, wow, he could seriously haul this week against United and going forward the next 3 or 4 weeks. So yeah, I mean but I think it's such a weird game because unless someone's got exactly the same team, towards the end of the season after that last wild card, everyone's teams have starting to look very similar. But I think hopefully they look different enough.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, as you say, that dissemination of so many different podcasts and information, is just so much there. It arguably makes it harder. I mean, do you find it harder to get a good overall rank history than you perhaps did a number of years ago?
Yeah, I mean, I used to go more with my own. It's like now I've watched and listened so much to stuff. That's why it's slightly. You know, I was chatting to someone with you from your site earlier about Richardson, and then obviously Davey, but then I look at it and think I don't really want 2 Aston Villa. I thought they were unlucky against Newcastle. I know Newcastle smashed them, but actually I thought going forward they look good. But I don't really want to put so much pressure on. So yeah, it's at the moment it's whether I go for Jackson or I go for Richardson. They're the sort of two I'll look at there, and I just can't really make up my. And then giving a week to see what Odegaard does, and whether then you bring in someone else. Then it's difficult. I kind of want someone to make the decision for me.
I mean, the sad thing in some ways is you've actually come up against in myself a manager who doesn't take hits at all, and what I do as best I can is roll those transfers, and I'm like, that's what I'm known for. It's like, what are you doing this week, David? Oh, I'm rolling my transfers, and then what I then do is then spend them all in one go, and then I'll take the hit on 2 free transfers, make 3 changes from -4. And I only just wanted to put that idea to you about just saving it for 1 week and then moving on Spurs and Chelsea in one fell swoop in game week 3 when their fixtures get really nice. Have you ever thought about doing that? Some people call it the mini wild card. It's quite useful. You know, I'm not going to make the decision for you, but I'm happy to put the idea out there for you.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. It's interesting because you could then bring him, take out Garnacho and Burma. I mean, it's that thing, isn't it? You can't. It's difficult. I can't. I just don't. If Foden was guaranteed to play, I would roll it without a doubt. But then weirdly I look at it and then think, could you just throw $1 million at it, take out Mbama and put in Nketiah? But then Trossard, what happened at the week with Trossard playing in the number 9 is a slight concern, you know.
Yeah. And you may end up with a benching headache, potentially, if you've got 8 attackers. You'd probably bench Garnacho, is my guess, but it's tough sometimes to bench someone who's playing attacking positions.
Yeah. It's
You've come here and we've helped you with none of your problems by the sound of
no,
it.
no, 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 no. It's just such a weird one, and I love it. I'm like Ranieri. I like a little tinker with my team. I sort of think there's a part of me wants to risk that with Charlton move and think it's a decent enough team then and then I can put Turner in goal this week when Charlton comes in, and then I hold for 2 weeks and then look at what could possibly,
Yeah.
But then
I think Turner going in, I think, is a good thing to do. A lot of people doing that this week. I've got Turner and I've got Flecken at Brentford. And I just think maybe Fulham might get something. And Turner home against Sheffield United. So Turner going in, and even if you don't sell Onana, just swap them over. I think Turner's got a higher chance of a clean sheet. Fingers crossed that actually pays off, because guaranteed, now I've said that, you'll do it, it will go wrong, and it'll be my fault. So
I keep on thinking I was going to save a penalty in that game.
yeah, maybe. It could be a lot of penalties in a game when there's a lot of end-to-end, like basketball, like football. So that's the problem. There's too many possibilities, isn't there, every single week?
Yeah, and that's the joy of it, right? Because I'm a massive West Ham fan, but all of a sudden you become fans of, Richarlison and Saka. So that's what's a great thing about this game. But yeah, man, it's I think you'll end up putting Richarlison in, and then I'll talk to you next week. You can laugh at me.
Well, we're used to doing that. At the very least, you can be used to people laughing at things you do.
Honestly, it's the best. I mean, to the point where, I've got stand up about it, and I'm trying to write a sitcom about it because it's such a great obsession. Do you know what I mean? And it's such a brilliant game.
Well, funny you've mentioned that. I know a couple of people who have a few ideas on a sitcom for FPL who would probably love to get in touch with you, and we're all of a sudden now live networking right here. So
tell them to reach out on Instagram or Twitter, or X as it's called now.
Oh yeah, that's what we've got to call it contractually. Yeah. Well, I'll absolutely have them do that. There's some people I know will be very excited to talk to you about it.
We've been chatting about it at the moment. Me and couple of mates. So so that's what that's it's like I say, it's obsession, then it feels like work, right? And this will be work.
yeah, exactly. Absolutely.
Well, mate, so I'll let you know what I do, right?
Yeah,
I'll
do
put it up.
Absolutely.
Tonight.
Yeah, well, if you've got to head off, that's absolutely fine. We've obviously got loads of other stuff that we can get through. So yeah, if you need to shoot off, that's absolutely fine. It's been fantastic having you, and
thank you.
Good luck with your transfers.
Thank you, and I'll be coming in on again during the season.
Brilliant stuff. Yeah, well, we'll look forward to it.
Thanks,
cheers, mate.
Everyone.
See you soon.
Cheers, my guy. Thank you, bro. Bye-bye.
Well, wasn't that fantastic? I did not expect that is what I would be doing this morning when I woke up, interviewing a famous comedian about his FPL team. Well, those of you that enjoyed that segment with Tom, do give this stream a like, and if we get enough likes, maybe we'll get him back. As he said, he wants to come on again. So send us some likes for that. I've seen a few people in the chat asking about whether or not we're going to do some team news and things like that. We've got all sorts of things planned for this stream as we head towards the Game Week 2 deadline. We're going to answer some of your questions. We're going to go through some team news. Earlier on, I tweeted about whether or not you've got some teams you want to send in. So I've got some teams that have been sent in. I'm going to rate those and give some people some advice on what to do with their team, all sorts of stuff. Now is the time for us to start thinking about all of those difficult decisions, and stick right here between now and about 6:30 as we go through a few of those. But as I said, I thought we'd start off by having a look at a bit of team news. Now, we of course every Friday have the team news video with Neil and Joe. Neil, editor of Fantasy Football Scout, it's literally his day job to watch all of these press conferences and pull out the key lines for people in terms of who's injured, who's going to play, etc., and do some predicted lineups, all that sorts of thing. Normally, that's going to be around 3:00, 2:30, and but if you're catching us just now, you might not have necessarily had enough time to catch that earlier on. So I'm just going to do a quick summary of some of the things in there, because this week more than ever, I mean, oh my days, we have had so much important injury news. So much of it is related to defenders specifically, which is the bracket we never like having to make changes in. And so, going through a lot of that is what we're going to be talking about on a lot of this stream. So let's start off with Arsenal then, because where else to start than the club that has Gabriel in, sometimes in the starting lineup, sometimes not. That's the problem. We didn't find out too much extra information on Gabriel in terms of whether or not he is a regular starter still. We do, however, have some injury updates on Timber. We know he's out for a long time because of this, I think it's an ACL injury. We've got Jesus still not available either. Zinchenko hopefully available very soon, which to me suggests he's not available for this game, and perhaps maybe increases the chance that perhaps Gabriel will come back in. We'll talk a bit in a little bit, a bit later on, what that actually means for our teams, because I'll show you my team. I'm not necessarily entirely sure that I'm necessarily going to start Gabriel, even in a world where there's a possibility that he might start. Over at Bournemouth then, I'm doing these sort of largely alphabetically. No one's really that interested in Bournemouth at the moment, right? Other than if you've perhaps got yourself a Liverpool attacker and you want to maybe captain Salah, which is something I'm thinking about. Bournemouth are going to be without Smith, Fredericks, Tavernier, Marcondes, Scott, Uatara and Cook. So it's a lot of absentees, which is encouraging if you're backing Liverpool. Lloyd Kelly could be back, which would be a mild improvement for them. But as I said, so many other players missing, which is nice to see. Sorry, Bournemouth fans. Senesi and Aarons are fine, and because they cramped up a bit in game week 1, which perhaps maybe might people think they're perhaps injured, but no, it sounds like they're doing okay. So a largely positive-ish update from Bournemouth if you're backing a Liverpool attacker. Let's move to Brighton now. Now, we have to talk about this because one of the things that's been doing the rounds is this Estupinian rumour, which was quite stupid by the sounds of it, because it does sound as if it was just kind of made up. There's been a lot of rumours in the last few weeks of players not being fit, and a lot of them turning out to be true, and there's usually a source that's identified that, but we haven't been able to discover where this Estupinian one came from, and to the point that there's been some great memes about it. If you enjoy your FPL memes, head to X, as it's now called, and the best one is one that's taken from a computer game. I actually don't know which one it is. There's a guy holding his gun saying, "Tell me who the source is," and then there's just some guy who's just like, "The source is I made it up," which is largely what we think. And we suspect that is almost even more true, because we've now heard from De Zerbi, who said everyone is good. And we'd like to think that if Estupinian wasn't available, he would probably say something, or if he had some kind of injury. He said we don't have a problem, and Estupinian not being available I would consider a problem, because Brighton really do heavily rely on him, of course. Tariq Lamptey is going to be playing with the under-21s, and Adam Webster and Lallana could come into contention. But largely, I think we don't need to worry too much about Estupinian. Now, what we probably do need to worry about, though, however, is Reece James at Chelsea. He is going to be out for some time, if you haven't caught that news already. We think it's going to be a number of weeks. He's had to have some operation. I think it's a muscle issue. Pochettino has described it as not being a big issue, but it's perhaps enough for him to maybe be out until at least the start of the next, or the end of the next international break. So, if you've got Reece James in your team, then that's a bit of a bummer. I suppose Chilwell hopefully is an easy-ish switch if you've still got some money, so maybe not the end of the world. And if you've already got Chilwell, I don't know. Well, we'll have a look at some teams. We'll have a look at what this information means for teams in a minute. Crystal Palace, Elise is still out, but Gay is still available if anyone's still interested in the Palace defence. It was Cramp that kept him out of finishing the game last time out. Mitrovic is going to miss the Fulham game for all those of you who are interested in the Brentford defence. He obviously didn't start last week, but he did come on as a substitute, I think. But either way, them not having him again is important. Palhinha is back from his injury and is likely to be in the matchday squad. We're not sure necessarily if he is going to be starting, but of course he's a huge player for them. And if he does start, could potentially limit the output of players like Mbeumo and Visser. Liverpool, we're going to talk about the Salah captaincy, but quick summary on their situation is there's not much that we need to bring to you on an injury situation, but however, there was this whole thing about him getting subbed, this is Salah, against Chelsea, and him not being too happy about it, and then Klopp not being too happy with him not being too happy about it, and people worrying if that maybe meant he might get benched, or there'd been some, bad blood between them. But it does sound as if that's all been put to bed, and Klopp in the press conference said that was a bit of a non-story, and was quoted as saying, Salah had a super training week, I hope he can take that into the game. So as someone who currently still has the captain's armband on Salah, quite happy with that. I like that. Right, Man City. We got two little updates here. Let's start with the first one. John Stones is out, so that's another defender who's been ruled out. And initially, it was that Diaz was out as well, but we've had like an update that Guardiola's now changed his mind and said that Diaz is not yet ruled out. So either way, that's enough for me to be like, not so fussed there. And anyone still with Stones, I mean, it's probably worth moving on, maybe, but depends what's going on with your bench. I still largely think that saving your transfer at this time of the season is super, super important. So any opportunity that you get to do that, I would take it. So that's Man City. And then our final little team news update. Number of people interested in George Baldock. Now he, I think, there we are, Smith in the chat. Perfect timing. Any team news on Baldock and Estupiñán? Well, we've already covered Estupiñán. Sounds like that rumour was a load of rubbish, we think, because we haven't found a source for it. And we also heard from De Zerbi, who basically said everybody's fine. And then, yes, with Baldock, he sort of struggled towards the end of the Palace games, had people a little bit nervous, especially in a week where, you know, we're going to maybe be rolling that transfer. Benching Gabriel because we think that he's maybe a 1 point cameo risk, and therefore relying on the likes of Baldock, for example, now is the time when we really need him. So there's some worries there, but according to Heckingbottom, Baldock and Lowe, who's the other wing back on the other side, are fine. They are okay, and everyone else is fine. So Neil's already gone into some semantical analysis on the team news chat, just to sort of like, what's the difference between okay and fine? Where's the threshold for whether or not they're going to play? I would imagine that if Baldock wasn't okay to play, then he wouldn't have said he's okay. I think okay sounds like confirmation enough to me, but that's just my own personal take on that situation. So Smith, I hope that helps you with your Baldock decision. I would expect that if he's not fit, he seems like a player who wouldn't necessarily 1 point cameo. I think, although on the subject of 1 point cameos, there are some people out there saying that Gabriel's not a 1 point cameo risk, but he absolutely is, because even if he doesn't start, it doesn't matter that he's a centre-back. When you look at the way Arsenal played against Forest, they had to bring on an additional centre-back in order to see the game out. And if you think that's going to happen again, you know, that could be what happens. So with these two teams, both their fixtures, Arsenal against Crystal Palace, Palace are definitely going to have spells in that game where they're looking good and trying to perhaps maybe get back into the game if they're behind, or maybe consolidate a lead. I do think Palace will score there. And so there might be maybe times in the game where Arteta's going to want to bring on Gabriel to shore things up. We may see exactly the same thing with Baldock as well, who, of course, is a defensive player. To some extent, he is obviously a wing back, but bringing him in later into the game when they perhaps want to see things out against Forest, even if he's not started, could happen. So it's a bit annoying, but I do think with him saying that he's okay, I do think that that's probably, I think that's useful. I think that's useful information, and that's enough to start him. And yeah, Smith says, thanks for replying. No problem, my friend. So that is all of the roundup of the team news tweets that are sort of the big ones. And so I've also just borrowed from Joe, and again, this is just for the benefit of people who haven't watched the team news stream earlier on, who's just summarised. We got Raya, Gay, McBurney, Senesi, Martinez of Man United, I should say. Romero and Jensen at Brentford are the players who there was some doubt over, but are now able to play. Raya, of course, the doubt was more to do with his registration as an Arsenal player than any kind of injury. So, anyone with Ramsdale, I think, should be a bit nervous right now. Those with doubts, we got Nathan Ferguson, who is always a doubt at Palace. Zinchenko. Joe's decided to put Baldock in the questionable section because he's okay, not fine. Make of that what you will. I think it's largely up to interpretation, to be honest. Webster, Lallana, Bernardo Silva, Diaz and Palhinha are sort of 75%, 80%, to be honest. And then those who are ruled out, Elise, Timber, Jesus, Reece James, Hoyland of United, Stones of Man City, and then Mitrovic of Fulham. And so, yeah, that is the current situation with those guys. So let's have a look at some of your questions then. I'm going to go through the chat and pick out some questions and answer those. As we hurtle towards that deadline. We have got an hour and 13 minutes. The deadline this week is, of course, at 6:15 rather than 6:30. So if you didn't already know that, go and set your timer to 15 minutes earlier. because if you got caught out in game week 1 with 6:30, you're absolutely going to get caught out at 6:15 in game week 2. So do be really, really careful with that. Yeah, we've got about an hour and 12 minutes now. So I'm gonna show you my team in a little bit, but let's deal with some of your questions first, and see how you guys are getting on. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that interview with Tom. It was good to talk to him, and I have to say, I mean, he seems a bit nervous about his team. I actually think it's pretty good. I think it's a good team. There's a lot of good teams going into game week 2, because I think that a lot of people have built their teams really well. A lot of people have got decent benches. So James says that he's got benching headaches already. Well, yeah, welcome to the club. We're all here. Let's help each other out. Mariano says, playing Haaland, Watkins and Pedro up front. Should I bench Rashford or Matoma in midfield? Wow. Okay, that is one heck of a dilemma. Mariano, if you're still watching, because I appreciate your question actually came through a little while ago. If you're still watching, let me know who else is in that team, because I wouldn't really want to bench either of those players, Rashford or Matoma. My suspicion is you've got 5 midfielders and you've got 3 strikers, all of whom are startable, and that's your issue. So I think I would want to start Rashford and Matoma. So it's worth knowing who else is in your midfield before giving you an answer there. So let me know in the chat if that's okay. We've got Benji joining us from the US, from sunny Colorado. Now, this is an ample opportunity for me to point out that last time my special guest was from a completely different part of the world, let alone celebrity world. And that was FPL Sonaldo, or Andy, you may know him as one of the Burning Questions hosts, who was joining us at 1 a.m. because, of course, he lives in Korea, where right now it is very, very late. And we established that who it was the worst for was the Australians, and we had a ton of Australians in the chat. So if you are from Australia, you've got 2 jobs. If you're watching this stream and you're from Australia, you've got 2 jobs. Number 1, you've got 3 jobs. Say hello. Secondly, tell us what your plans are and what time you think you're going to be going to bed. And number 3, without wanting to be too mean about it, how do you feel after that semi-final? Because I know how I feel. I feel very happy. So I would love to hear from Australians if you're in the chat. It's been a miserable week for you guys, staying up till 3 a.m, 2 Fridays in a row, and you lose a World Cup semi-final as well. So, yeah, here is the place to cry on our shoulders. So, yeah. Right, Ice Cold Jones. Should I put Gusto in? I have Chilwell and I want to bring in Jackson or Alvarez. Wow, now that is a dilemma. I think Gusto is worth considering, if I'm honest. I think at 4 million for a couple of weeks, you should be able to get some decent starts out of him with this James situation. It's just whether or not you feel it's long-term enough. We know a bit about this injury to James. Pochettino's describing it as not serious, which, a number of weeks could maybe mean 2 game weeks. It could mean 4 game weeks. And so that's maybe going to be at the back of your mind. Do you want to double up on Chelsea defence if you've already got Chilwell? Well, for game week 3 and 4, you might want to. Luton and Forest, you perhaps might think about it. But I think for this week, if you've got other options, I think just having Chilwell when it's West Ham, I don't think is the worst idea in the world, because West Ham's attack, I think, is good enough to score against Chelsea. And so doubling up on that Chelsea attack is maybe not how I would want to go, if I'm honest. I think it's very much team dependent. If you don't have Chilwell, and you can't get to Chilwell, and you want to get a Chelsea defender, then I think Gusto becomes a more important signing. But when you already have Chilwell, I think you've already, in inverted commas, sort of covered that, if that makes sense. But in terms of what your other options were, you were talking about Jackson or Alvarez. Well, yeah, it's a tricky one. I think if you're going to bring in Jackson, I obviously haven't specified who you'd be bringing him in for, but if you bring in Jackson, it's hard to know who you would lose. Is it worth going a week early on Chelsea? I don't know. I think I would rather roll the transfer than go now. And then with Alvarez, I think it's more of the same. That Newcastle game, I think City will win it. But, we're not entirely sure necessarily if Alvarez is going to start. I'm going to get to some predicted teams in a minute, because we've got those from Neil and the team. Off the top of my head, I don't know if he's in there. But yeah, so there's that to consider, and I think the Newcastle game is maybe a one where I don't know. I just think Newcastle, it's going to be a good game. I think City will win, but obviously they are going to face easier fixtures this season, City than Newcastle. So yeah, I do think that it's hard to get too excited about those guys. I would just roll. I think I would just roll if that was my situation. So yeah, that's what I would do. I'm just going to check the chat to see if we got any further updates from Mariano about their transfer, and we'll just keep an eye on that as well. We may in the next few minutes get joined by another special guest. We're full of comedians tonight. I may be able to bring you another one. Not quite of the same caliber, but certainly someone who's made me laugh in the past. So we keep an eye on the chat for some of your questions. We may have another guest soon, who I will actually just need to sort out a Zoom link for. And yeah, keep your questions coming in. I'll go through my team very soon. James Hall says, bench Pedro or Matoba? I'm struggling. Well, again, guys, I have to say, I'm seeing a lot of benching dilemmas this week, which I have to say, what's the rest of your team looking like if you're choosing between those two? Because I would want to start both of them. So if my little request to people is that if you are facing one of these dilemmas, I would like to know who else you've got to justify, because there may be other people worthy of benching than those guys. So do let us know. Right, let's move on to my team then. Oh, that is not the right window. Let's move on to your teams. Because I still need to make some decisions about mine. So earlier on today, I asked some of you guys to get in touch with your teams so I could rate them for the stream. And because there's a lot of people out there who have some questions. So we'll start off with, now this on the screen is Terry McMahon's team, who says, do I gamble on Darwin playing or do I transfer him out? Maybe I'll bring in João Pedro. Now, my first response when I saw this team was actually, it's pretty good. I quite like it. In answer to the specific question, do I bring in Darwin? Do I replace Darwin with Pedro? I don't think you actually need to do that. I think that even though Darwin's not necessarily completely guaranteed to start, I think he will feature at some point. I think Liverpool will get something out of this game. And as I will say, like all the time, I say this all the time, if you can roll your transfer for game week 2, I think that puts you in a much better situation moving forward. I mean, you've got a couple of options in the midfield that could turn into Chelsea or Spurs midfielders, for example. I think with this team, Terry, I think you can roll your transfer, if I'm honest, and fingers crossed Darwin gets you something. Right, so that's Terry's team. So let's move on to Sasha's team. Sent this via Twitter, and again, this is a team that I really like. I think it is a good team in terms of the any sort of dilemmas that sort of wrapped up in all of that. Just double check. So we've gone with Diaby captaincy, roll transfer, Jackson for one of Pedro Alvarez, or we'll see. So they've got a couple of options here. Well, let's start with the obvious, Captain Diaby. I love this so much. Now, you're going against Haaland, which, to be fair, Salah owners are doing as well, and we'll see my team in a little bit. That is something I'm doing too. I think there is a risk that comes with this, but I like the attitude here. I do think Diaby will have a good game against Everton. I thought Villa were quite unlucky not to get more goals against Newcastle, and if they can play that way against Newcastle in terms of going forward, I think they can easily make mincemeat of Everton. So it's pretty cool. I guess the only thing I would have to say, Sasha, is just check how brave you are, because going against Haaland is difficult, even for those of us who are going for Salah. Doing it with Diaby is a bit risky. He's a bit risky. You've obviously considered rolling the transfer, which is good. That makes you one of my people. Jackson for one of Pedro Alvarez. I don't think you need to do that, if I'm honest. I think Pedro away at Wolves is good enough. It's good enough to save that transfer. It's all about weighing up the value of different things, and I do think that having the free transfers is better than necessarily having a player who you think is a little bit better for the next one, I guess we could say. So that's what I would suggest is worth doing. So yeah, let us know either on Twitter or in the chat if you find that advice helpful. Now, I am encouragingly joined by yet another comedian, as already mentioned. As I said, of a slightly different caliber to what we had before. It is, of course, Mr. Ed Gray. How are you doing? And before you say hello, I am fully aware of the fact that the screen labels you as Tom. I'm going to get that changed.
You can leave it if you want. I'd rather he gets the rap for anything I say, you know. So that's good.
Well, that is true. Like that. But yeah, thank you for joining us somewhat short notice. It's been good fun to have you. Good fun to have you.
Always a pleasure. You did ask me a couple of days ago whether I'd consider coming on, but I thought I was going to be busy. But I saw you. Obviously, you spoke to Tom, and then I saw you just talking to yourself on the internet, and I took pity, and I thought I'll join you. So
that's very kind.
How's it going? What have I missed? Because I've only just tuned in. I know Tom's been on. Comedian Tom. But,
we've had Tom on talking about his team, and then I've been going through a bit of team news roundup, just sort of summarising earlier videos, and then we're going through at the moment a couple of teams that have been sent in by other people answering some of their dilemmas. So of course, famously, people come to you for advice about FPL all the time, don't they, Ed? So I'm sure you can make light work of this.
Oh, absolutely. I could sort of start a Patreon for the sort of level of advice I give, but I decide against it. I'm all about the community, so I don't do that.
That's good to know.
How's your team looking? David?
Go on then. By popular demand, I'll stick it on the screen. I do apologise. I still haven't actually had a chance to actually sort out. You're still Tom. If you're happy to be Tom, that's fine. That's fine with me.
Right.
Yeah. So let's pull up my team, which is. Just apologies to people. I have so much open at the moment because it's a Friday evening, and we've just got so much stuff coming in on.
Well, as you're doing that, I'll give you a few seconds to do that, and I'm looking at some questions in the chat. So, start Gabriel or Colwill?
Yeah, we have to talk about that.
Yeah, that's a good one, isn't it? I mean, Gabriel. There's some suggestions that he's now not sort of nailed, isn't it? But Colwill probably will play for Chelsea, so. Oh, that's an interesting one.
I would go Colwill in that situation, if I'm honest. I have been all week talking about how I'm not going to start Gabriel, which I can now actually prove by putting my team up on the screen. I've got Gabriel as my first sub because there's two reasons. Number one, I don't think he's going to start. Or rather, I think it's hard to say he will start. That's probably a better way of putting it, with certainty. But I also just don't like this fixture. I think that the way that... Crystal Palace are playing, I think they're going to score goals. I think that when you look at how they finished last season, I think it was 3 games in their final 10 where they failed to find the net, so that they can do it quite regularly. Obviously scored Gameweek 1 as well. Arsenal, only 3 clean sheets in their last 12 of last season. Didn't keep a clean sheet against Forest. 2 in their last 11 at the end of last season, if you take out the 12th one, which was right at the back end of that little stream. So I actually just don't understand... I don't understand the sort of... I don't want to call it obsession because I don't want to sound like I'm having a go at people, but this idea that the Arsenal defence is this clean sheet generating force...
I think we should have a go at people. I think let's just have a go at them. Load of rubbish. Why are people acting like Crystal Palace away is an easy fixture? This is such a hard fixture. Roy Hodgson is an absolute genius, and he's got that team purring. So yeah, I'm with you. I think it's not obvious at all. But Gabriel, I mean, even if he was starting, would you still bench him?
Yeah,
you would play him, wouldn't you?
No, I'd bench him. Yeah, I'd bench him because I just don't back Arsenal against Palace. I really just don't back them, and it is going to depend on what people have got. And so yeah, my team is now on the screen. I've put in Matty Cash, who was kind of in the team for this kind of exact job when I felt like I didn't want to necessarily start. It was originally going to be a United defender, but I decided to cave and go for Gabriel on literally the last day of the season, and then missed out on the opportunity to sell him because I was streaming. As you say, talking to myself on the internet.
Dedicated to your job, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the important thing. That's what I like to hear.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if everybody else could just leave the stream so me and Ed can have a quick one-to-one, that'd be great. But yeah, so
very good.
Oh, sorry, I've interrupted you now.
No, I was just going to say, I was just going to say we've answered someone else's question as well. Matthew Smith has said Turner or Ramsdale. You, with your Arsenal and Crystal Palace comments, has just answered that. So you'd say Turner, play him tonight in goal, yeah?
I think so, yeah. It's actually a tougher choice for me than it is for a lot of other people, because a lot of people are sort of comparing Turner with like Anana or Ramsdale's another one. I don't.
Nana.
Yeah.
What's my name?
Yeah.
Oh, Nana. Yeah.
I mean, famously, that is what most people say when I ask them about that on these streams. So thank you for that totally expected ton of events there.
Have you had the Nicholas Jackson one yet?
I haven't. Do enlighten me.
Nicholas Jackson.
Very, very good. Very, very, very good.
You're going to regret having me on this in about 5 minutes.
I don't
You're stuck with me now. Here I am, guys. I don't offer much, but I try my best. So, yeah.
I can confirm.
Sorry.
He does try his best. We know that.
I'm actually trying my best this season with FPL. I've started okay. I've still got 72 points game week 1. I captained Saka, which wasn't as disastrous as it could be. But I've already got Chilwell. I don't have Reece James, so that's good. I've got Nicholas Jackson already. Now everyone's like, oh, should I get Nicholas Jackson? He looks good. He might be on pens. And I've got Salah, so I'm captaining Salah this week. So I feel like I'm in pretty good place.
Yeah, it's not a bad place to be in, to be honest. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, the thing about Reece James is I've not owned him for a long time for all of the reasons you've kind of basically alluded to there.
He's a heartbreaker.
It's just,
He's a heartbreaker.
He really is, because he just, I just run out of words to describe him. Whenever I think about Reece James, I just think about it's either 1-1-1, 18, 1-1-1. You know, he's kind of like what's it called? Binary. He's like a binary virus.
Yeah.
0-1, 0-1, 0-1, 18. Oh, he broke the computer. He's injured now.
I can see Mr. Mills has asked a super chat. He's given us $2, Canadian dollars.
Okay, brilliant. Let's jump right
And it is Chile and Gusto in for Gabriel and Dallo out for a -4. Is that good? Well, Dallo, it looks like Wan-Bissaka's starting for Man United, doesn't it? So it looks like Dallo's not. Is that right, David?
Well, I don't really know where we go on this, because in pre-season, I was talking up Wan-Bissaka a lot because he started playing some really important games, was doing well, and then
You're the only person I know who says Wan-Bissaka.
Oh, what
like I don't know. Everyone else I know says Wan-Bissaka. You say Wan-Bissaka.
Oh, well,
it sounds like a sort of type of paella.
Well, I am famously a representative of Team Southend, unlike yourself. So
yeah, true. Well, I've got a relatively southern accent, but I would still say Wan-Bissaka.
I don't think you want to admit.
Let's do a poll. Who's right?
Yeah, go on. Well, yeah, I'll put that up in a second. Do a poll. It's fine. I'll do it in a second. Okay. But I don't think you want to admit to a southern accent, Ed, because otherwise you might have to turn in your Team North card. So let's just tread carefully on this.
No, but I was born in Newcastle. You know, I was born in Newcastle.
In Newcastle, you pronounced that correctly. Well done.
Thank you.
Got through
I wasn't going to get caught out. I wasn't going to get caught out on that one. Yeah.
But yes, Aaron Wan-Bissaka, as he's known in some circles, he was doing well in pre-season and then kind of tapered off a bit towards the end because he played. There was one game. It was the Dortmund game where Dallo played instead. Dallo scored a brilliant goal. Then AWB, which saves me having to pronounce it wrong again, he came on, didn't play very well, gave the ball away for a goal, and then in the next game where they played a lot of their first team players, he didn't feature. So I was very distraught because I had been bigging him up all summer, so I took him out and thinking there's a risk. And then actually Neil went with Dalot as the predicted starting right back for Gameweek 1, and then Wan-Bissaka came back. So to me, I think that's enough to say there's doubt there, to be honest.
To Mr. Mills, I'd say Gabriel and Dallo, they both got a question mark over whether they're going to play, whereas Chilwell and Gusto both don't. So I'd go for Chilwell and Gusto, even for a -4.
Yeah,
I would, but I'm pretty, I throw around hits all over the place usually. So maybe don't listen to me. But
that's true. That is true. Maybe we shouldn't listen to you. That is true. No, I think it depends what the rest of your team's doing. If you just a quick thing, if you sent a super chat in, and we ask you for a bit more detail, if you just stick it in the chat as like a normal chat, we can obviously just keep that going so we can answer your question well. Because I think you could bench Gabriel and Dalot if you had other defenders like maybe a Baldock or a Cash or something like that. If they're also on your bench, I think bringing them in to enable you to roll the transfer is not the worst thing to do in the world, because literally every game week 2, every year, broken record, they see me rolling, they hating. That's how it is. Like, if you can roll, you should, because game week 3, there's so many fixture changes, and it's going to give you the best opportunity to
even I'm rolling. So that says,
even Ed is rolling. Exactly.
Unless although there's quite a few defences that have absolutely been obliterated with injuries. Reece James, John Stones, Mings. So some people are going to have to make transfers or play their wild card or something to get out of the mess. But can I just say, David, there's nearly 200 people watching, and we've only got 53 likes. So I think you should smash that like button, hit the notification bell, and do whatever else you meant to do on YouTube. I don't know what that is, but do it.
Yeah, whatever the kids do on YouTube, do it. That's the way to go. One last thing on Mr. Mills' comment. Chili and Gusto, does that not sound like maybe a company that perhaps makes gravy and maybe stuffing?
Say that again, sorry.
Chili and Gusto would be a good name if you were going to set up a perhaps with spicy gravy or some sort of spicy sauce for your risotto or something. I don't know. It just sounds like a food manufacturing company.
Let's go to Dragon's Den with that. Chili and Gusto.
Let's see how far we get. We got the idea from a Fantasy Football Scout Super Chat.
Yeah. I think that is there any other player combination names that sound like food sort of companies? We'll think about that later.
Yeah, I mean,
say it
maybe
in the chat if you
Anana.
can think of anything.
Anana might have something to do with the production of bananas or something. Anana banana or something like that.
Anana banana. If there was a player called Banana, then Anana banana would be good.
That would be brilliant.
Anyway.
Yeah.
People are actually asking genuine questions, so let's answer
we
some
should do that.
What do you reckon? Yeah. Or any other food companies? Put them in the chat. We'll work that out. Turner or Anana? David, hang on. Why don't we do this? Sorry, I'm completely I'm a wild card. I don't know what's going to happen. I will do quick fire questions to you, and we'll get through like 10, and you've got to answer within 10 seconds without any waffle. Okay?
But without waffle, I can't do that.
Without waffle. Oh, you've got to try. Okay. Turner or Anana?
Turner.
Do I go Martinelli to Salah, says Tempest MLBB. If he's got the money in the bank, assume he has.
Yes.
Okay, and then do you captain Salah? Then
yes, you have. If you're breaking from the plan of roll transfers, guys, to get Salah, you have to captain him because there's no other reason why you would want him because he's an opportunity this week to get one over Haaland.
Fernandez to Maddison?
No.
Okay.
Because I think that you could roll it. I think Fernandez will get something in this game. This game suits United. Counter-attacking football is going to work really well against a very attacking Spurs team. So, yes, Maddison and Fernandes might score the same number of points or a similar number of points, but the free transfer you bank is worth more. I don't think that there's enough of a gap between Fernandes and Maddison to warrant spending a transfer. That's the
P9K5 has said, I've captained Chilwell. Am I crazy? Yes, you are.
Yes.
Get help.
We can confirm that. That is crazy.
Yeah. Although it's fun, right?
A bit too much of the Chilean gusto, I reckon.
Too much Chilean gusto.
Yeah.
Anana banana. Should I start Jackson or Odegaard? I'd go
both.
Jackson. Both. Good point. Who on earth have you got on the pitch if you're not starting both of them?
Yes.
Start both.
Can I just say, that's my answer to everyone's question. If you're asking me if you should bench one of two players and they're both over 6.5 million, the answer is bench someone else or sell one and rebalance your squad better because you don't want to be having these dilemmas every week. So that would save me and Ed a lot of time.
Exactly. Mr. Mills has replied. He was the guy who did the super chat. So he said, appreciate the hot take. First bench Bulldog, rest and non-playing fodder. Price rises for Chile and Dallo about to fall any time now. Yeah, so there we go. Edison or Turner, David?
Turner.
Ooh. Akanji or Gabriel?
Akanji.
Thoughts on Anthony Gordon, vice captain? Well, I'll comment on this, John Cahill, because I'm a Newcastle fan and we're playing the hardest game in world football on Saturday night. So I probably wouldn't vice captain Anthony Gordon, although he probably will start, and he was very, very, very good against Aston Villa. He got an assist, an incredible assist for Tonali. What? I don't know how he dug that cross out with his left foot. But there is a slight chance Harvey Barnes will start instead of him, but I don't think he will because I don't think you can drop Gordon after his performance against Villa. By the way, just so you all know, just to put it out there, Newcastle are going to get a result at the Etihad, probably 1-1, I imagine. So just thought I'd let you know. So don't captain Haaland, captain someone else. David, do you have Salah?
I do in fact have Salah, and I currently have him captained as well, which everybody on the screen has been looking at and probably wondering why I'm so crazy.
Given that Liverpool beat Bournemouth 9-0 in this fixture last season, I know that's obviously a bit of an outlier, and you can't base everything on that. Is there any merit in triple captaining him?
No.
Or is it always worth waiting for a double game week?
Always worth waiting for a double game week, yeah, absolutely, because just higher ceiling of points. And also the other thing is that we haven't seen enough of this season to warrant a big decision. So you need lots of data before you can confidently say that is definitely a fixture that he can do well in, basically. I think you can take risks at this stage of the season, but take risks with not big things. So treat game week 2 like you've gone to the slot machines with some 2Ps. Right. Because you spent a 2p, that's a captaincy. You could just put a couple more 2ps in and you might get it back slightly further down the line. Triple captaining someone in game week 2 is like going to the slot machines and playing either on the 10p slot machines, which is just an absolute mistake. Never do it. Or alternatively, spending £1 to £2 trying to win one of those things with the claw. Never going to work.
Yeah. No, never.
You probably need to put in £20 worth of £1 coins to work out the exact weighting of that claw, the speed at which it rises, the balance of the things in the machine. So yeah,
Are we still talking about FPL, or are we talking about arcade games?
I just love going to the arcades, man. Any opportunity to talk about the arcades, I'm there. But hopefully that's another analogy
John
that helps.
Cahill. Sorry, yeah, it has. But John Cahill's put Toonali. Exactly, John. But there's a good question from Louis Hewitt, depending how middle class he is. And he's asked, who should I replace Stones with? I have Saliba and Estupinian already. So who should he replace Stones with?
Nobody. I think he should, as in, I just roll your transfer.
You always choose the option they don't give, don't you? It's like this player or this player. Both. Who should I replace this person? Nobody.
Think outside the box. Think outside the question. Right. I just think that Stones, you may want to keep it. You may want to have him later on in the season, because it doesn't sound like this injury is necessarily awful. It's not like in the Reece James bracket of like he's out for weeks, so he could be back for game week 3. City's defensive fixtures are really nice. When he is fit, he is definitely going to start games, and those free transfers are so worth it. But just remember, by the way, the free transfer doesn't mean what some people think it means. I don't know if you've seen this tweet, Ed. Someone's tweeted that they were speaking to one of their friends at work who's relatively new to the game. He was under the impression that by banking a transfer this week, he could make his next 2 transfers and they would be for free, in the sense he wouldn't have to pay for those players. He thought that I can do. You can't afford that, mate. Well, I can do 2 free transfers.
Well, it does say free transfer. Yeah, I know.
So
you would assume that if you didn't know FPL, you might assume that that's the case. Poor bloke. Bruno, no, hang on. Would you transfer out Foden for either Mbomo or Diaby? If so, which one? So I suppose the question is, would you transfer out Foden?
No.
Are we worried about minutes? Are we worried about Man City? They are playing the mighty Newcastle on Saturday. So.
Yeah, that's true. Who have the most cultured midfielder in all of British football now, because he has now officially visited Wetherspoon. So he knows where he is. He's hit the ground running, and I'm sure had the famous cheap pints and 5-minute cook lasagna. And no music and weird carpets, and sticky carpets. Yeah,
1 mile walks to the toilets. Yeah, exactly.
You don't need to do when players do the warm weather training, or perhaps maybe they do some jogs with some weights on them on the training ground. Yeah. Just go to Wetherspoons. Yeah. You try and walk across that sticky carpet. That's going to really help give you some good leg strength.
Doing beach training, running in sand. That's what it's like.
Exactly. But yeah, I think Foden this week, I wouldn't sell him. I just wouldn't sell him. I think that there's enough doubt over other people in that Man City attack that I think a start seems likely. De Bruyne is out. I think Bernardo Silva has also got something against his name as well. Alvarez, there's doubts around, and so somebody's got to start. It probably is going to be Foden. I think that. I think City will score. That's no disrespect to Newcastle, of course. I think that I actually think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I think the way that Newcastle play, they've got a team that really, really works well on the counter-attack. So I do think that City will concede here. But then I think when City concede, that's when you sort of awaken the dragon. And the Newcastle defence hasn't been as reliable in the last 6 months as it was in the 6 months before that, which hopefully I can say without getting booted off the stream. So I don't. Again, it's like if you can just take him into game week 3, and you need more information. If you weren't that happy with what he did in game week 1, he might turn around and do really well in game week 2, or he might flop again, and then you can sell him with confidence, and you can sell him for a Spurs midfielder, a Chelsea midfielder when the fixtures turn. You sort of play the fixtures, and you've got more power to leverage the right players because you've saved a free transfer. So. There I am again. Roll those transfers, guys.
Roll those transfers. So we're running basically a deadline stream where people are asking questions and we're just saying, roll the transfers.
Exactly.
So you need to create a bit of spice, David. We need to chuck in something. Oh, I'm hearing Haaland's broken his ankle or something, and then just, no, it's fine. And then, at least then there's a bit of entertainment. No, I don't think Haaland has broken his ankle. Right, there's more questions. Lewis Hewitt says rats to our answer. So there you go.
Great. Nice.
Yeah,
great. Rats.
Great answer.
Rats, I think he's the new Fulham signing from Dinamo Zagreb. Rats.
Yeah, Rats. Yeah. He's going to be absolutely incredible. Darwin Captain says TC Popper. TC Popper, I mean, why not? It's against Bournemouth, but the sensible picks this week, I think, would be Haaland or Salah. They are the boring picks as well, to be honest. So if you want to captain Darwin, you captain Darwin. For all we know, he's going to get 5 goals against Bournemouth. So you go wild.
They might win a Darwin Award.
Might win a Darwin Award. Exactly. Start Gabriel or Henry. I guess that's Rico Henry. I'd go Rico Henry. Who have Brentford got again?
They're playing Fulham. This is from Nishal. Yeah, okay, yeah. Gabriel Henry. Yeah, Henry. Easy. Yeah. Like
Henry's a good player, isn't he? He was the best player on the pitch, I think, the other day.
He played really well in game week 1. 3 chances created, I think it was. 2 big chances as well. Brentford's defence was really good last year. Fulham, I think... I don't know what their XG was in game week 1, but they had just 2 shots on target against Everton. They did manage to score with one of them, but if they're going to keep that level of attack up, they're not going to score 1 goal every week. And so I think there's a good chance of a clean sheet there. And then, Gabriel covered already.
Yeah, if you want to know, how David knows all this stuff, like these stats, just he gets it from the Fantasy Football Scout members area, which is, a great tool. You can sign up at Fantasy Football Scout for free, actually. You can get a free membership, but you can also get paid memberships, and they're great. That's how top players make decisions. They look at the stats that we've got. We've got Opta stats. The Premier League use our stats. It's pretty good, isn't it, David?
Yeah, it's very, very good. And of course, we have extended, I believe, the prices, so you can still save up to 30% on the preseason prices. Yeah, I think so.
Wow.
Yeah.
Crikey. We are. They bargain. Absolute bargain.
You had me really nervous there that was wrong information because you acted so surprised, despite the fact that you very well.
I'm just a very good actor.
You knew that. Well, these comedians, we got when you bring comedians, 2 of them on to the stream, then wow, you're asking for trouble, aren't you? So that is a situation we find ourselves in. But yeah, the members area is amazing, and the great thing is it's not too late to sign up as well, which is quite good because it will just help you from week to week.
Never too late.
Yeah, it's never too late. That's true. The time it becomes the most effective for people, in my opinion, it's effective all the time, but it becomes even more essential from about game week 4 when you can go back over those first few weeks and all that information is built.
You have enough data. For some good sample sizes.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm learning all the lingo, all the language. Yeah, I know what to say.
Yeah, you're now in a position where you can pretend to be either Grass FC or Analytics FC. It's
exactly
good method acting.
I've always been Vibe FC, but I think now, I only took this job at Scout to get a free to get a free premium membership, and and I'm already started the season well. So there we go. Rashford captain, says Corey Gill. Corey, could be great, could be bad. It would be very differential because most people will be captaining Salah or Haaland. Do you think Salah and Haaland are going to be about equal captains this week? EO, the effective ownership, do you think it's going to be about the same, or is there quite a few people without Salah, do you think?
There'll be enough people without Salah. I think that it's going to be... it won't be... Well, okay, first things first. It won't be as one-sided as it was in Game Week 1 because Salah does provide that challenge. In terms of Salah's actual normal ownership, I don't actually know what it is. I should know this.
About 30%, I think.
29.9%, apparently.
I said 30. That's pretty good.
You said about 30, so technically... Absolutely spot on. So yeah, I think
I round up.
He will have a chunk, but it won't be huge. I think Haaland will probably still be far and away the most captained guy this week. And I still think that going Salah is worth doing, to be honest, because it's an opportunity, and if it backfires, you probably still have Haaland anyway. So it's not going to leave you too far adrift because you can just captain Haaland the following week and maybe make a few changes in other areas, and you'll catch up. And the flip side is the upside is that if it comes off and Salah gets like a hat trick and Haaland gets a goal and assist, you have captained someone that someone else doesn't even have, and so the size of your green arrow will be even bigger. So it feels low-ish risk, high reward. It's definitely worth doing, I would say.
Okay. Comprehensive answer there, thank you. Lucas Perrier, the inventor of Perrier, what is that again? Water? Sparkling water or something? I don't know. Or is it champagne? I don't know. Anyway, bench 1, Colwill, Gusto, or Henry?
Colwill, Gusto, and Henry. One of the Chelsea guys.
Colwill, because the other 2 are wing backs.
Yeah,
you might get forward a bit more.
You're learning. That's exactly what I would have said.
Learning.
Yeah.
Thanks, man. Robert Akehurst has said, I have no bench. Do I hope Gabriel starts or replace with Alexander-Arnold for -4? I already have Chilwell and Estupinian. So essentially his question is, should he swap Gabriel to Trent for this fixture? But it's a -4.
Yeah, not for a -4. I mean, it's tricky because I suppose we don't know who your other guys are involved in that little trade. I think just hold it. I mean, it sounds like he's not that happy with his bench. I reckon there's probably someone on there. That could come in that would save you taking that big hit. I think the best piece of advice that I've seen from anyone about Liverpool at the start of the season came from Praz in Deadline Dilemmas, which you can now catch every Thursday at 9 o'clock UK time with Rich, is the idea that whatever you do with Liverpool, you've got to stick to it. Because not sticking to your plan is perhaps the most damaging thing you can do. Yes, maybe Trent is a good option this week, but if you don't already have him, you have to break your team to do it. So taking 4 points off is already going to limit how much reward you can get. If you didn't have Trent game week 1, it presumably means you felt like Liverpool weren't, or rather Trent wasn't worth investing in, probably because of the fixtures in the first 6 is my guess. And so then you only really want him for game week 2, or that's the time when you want him the most. And therefore, by not sticking to the plan, you may end up doing more damage. If you leave him out of your team, save that 4 points, and maybe you bring him in on a free transfer at a later point if he proves to be essential. But you kind of have to, in the first few weeks, stick to your Liverpool plan. You either go in on Salah, and then if you've got Salah, you kind of have to, in inverted commas, captain him because you made the decision to have him on the view that he was the best captaincy candidate for game week 2, so you've got to follow through. If you had Trent, I mean, again, you would just hold him. If you don't have either of those two, I do think that breaking your team to get to them is going to be more harmful than just going without and benefiting yourself in other areas, whether that's a role transfer or having 2 Arsenal attackers or having 2 United attackers for a Spurs game that actually, to be honest, I think United could get some goals in because it's going to be open and they're going to counter-attack. Those sorts of things can still benefit your team. Playing style is very important in any kind of game because we have to... Sometimes we forget that this is a game on top of watching real football, and strategy is really important. And sometimes you might be playing a board game or some kind of computer game, and it's like you have the option to commit to a certain path, and you actually reap more rewards if you stick down that play style. Maybe it's different to the meta, maybe it's different to everybody else, but actually committing to what you're doing can sometimes be more rewarding than being indecisive and chopping and changing and taking -4s for short-term gains and copying other people or moving towards other people. So that's how I like to see it, and that's why I think just stick with whatever your Liverpool plan was. Don't change it for game week 2. Because if you wanted him for Bournemouth, you should have started the season with him. Which sounds harsh. That's just
not harsh. Well, sometimes the truth hurts, David. Sometimes the truth hurts.
It does.
So thanks for that. Right, I can stick around for another 5 minutes, so let's bosh out a few more questions, and then I'll leave you to talk to the internet again. Pau Torres or Gabriel? Gabriel's coming up a lot. I think a lot of people had Gabriel, didn't they?
A lot of people did, yeah. And a lot of people missed the opportunity to sell him as well, which was still totally not
Pau Torres. Yeah, apparently Pau Torres is going to be playing left back for Villa as well because Dinas get off to Saudi, like everyone else.
I
might go to Saudi. Maybe I'll get a big contract offer from Saudi, fantasy football Saudi. And I'll,
Well, the thing is, the way that league keeps going, we may end up in a situation where that's what happens. Big fantasy game, we may end up having to cover it because all of the Premier League players went there instead.
Please answer my question, guys. Got a bath, my little one, before bed. So, okay, Matthew. Start Gabriel or Anderson?
So I'm guessing he means
Anderson.
Palace,
That's Joachim Anderson.
Yeah.
Anderson. Why not? I keep a clean sheet.
Yep. That's what I would do. I think, in all likelihood, neither will keep a clean sheet. But I actually think the team more likely of keeping one is Crystal Palace because defensively they just were much stronger at the back end of last season. And in this, so there's the one thing on Arsenal. The way they played against Forest, they didn't actually register a single big chance. So Forest are one of 3 teams in game week 1 that didn't concede a big chance, which is just nuts. Because obviously they lost the game and Arsenal scored 2 goals, and they do have players in the team who can score without having created a big chance because they're good players. But there's a couple of things that make me think that Arsenal aren't necessarily the finished article offensively yet because they've made some changes to that midfield. If anyone watched Match of the Day last week, they did some good analysis of how the Arsenal midfield, it's not moving the ball as quickly as it probably should do in situations where they've managed to get Odegaard or Saka into space. And the most telling one was a bit where Saka moved over to the right and then Odegaard moved over as well and created this overload in just humongous amounts of space. And the rest of the Arsenal team was kind of set up all the way down the left. You may see Premier League teams do this sometimes when there's a goal kick and everybody moves to one side of the pitch rather than have the whole pitch to themselves. And they were just kind of piddling it around in little, almost like that scene from the IT Crowd. Like, the problem with Arsenal is you always want to walk it into the net. They were doing that in the midfield on the left, rather than someone just spraying a ball out into space and asking some questions. And maybe that's something that they can bring to their game against Palace. But as I said, I think Palace are no pushovers. And so if I was to be asked who I think is the most likely team to keep a clean sheet, I think it's Palace. I think they defend better. And I think I don't want to say Palace attack better, but clearly Game Week 1 shows that they created more big chances than Arsenal did. So, and then of course you factor in the whole starting thing, and Anderson's more likely to start. It's a high risk, high reward. I think if Palace do keep a clean sheet, Anderson almost certainly comes with some bonus because he gets lots of passes and creates things, and he has lots of shots that are on target. He's like Beckenbauer, and got maximum bonus against Sheffield United despite not getting an attack in return. So, of those two, I'd go Anderson.
There we go, Anderson. Okay, I'm going to do 5 quick fires for you, and then I need to leave. Okay,
that's all right.
Havertz to Diaz for a 1-week punt.
No.
Not even against Bournemouth.
Nope. Roll the transfer.
Okay. There we go. Roll the transfer. It's going to be. I can see a pattern that's going to emerge.
My
here.
eyes twitching.
Mbomo for Matoma for a -4 hit.
You know what answer I'm going to give.
That's Christian. He's going to say no, Christian. Would you start Gabriel or Colwill with Dave FIFA? Colwill, I think we've said that.
Yeah.
Thoughts on Chilwell captain? If I don't have Salah, I just don't see Haaland scoring more than 1 if he does score. Why not? Go for it. You know what? It might work because Haaland could be shut out by the mighty Newcastle. So, yeah, play your own game. You know. Please answer. Someone said, please answer, and I've lost it. Oh, Alvarez or Jackson for the next couple of game weeks?
Jackson. More short of starts, better fixtures for Chelsea.
Ooh,
slightly.
Lovely.
City's are still good, but Chelsea's are better.
Okay. Start Rico Lewis or Saliba?
Oh, Lewis. I think. No.
Is Lewis definitely going to play?
Let's have a look.
Start,
I've got the team news up on the screen, the predicted lineups. Let's see what Neil thinks, and we shall defer to the oracle of Neil. He has got. I kind of felt like Lewis would be likely. Oh no, he's not playing according to Neil. So their lineup for City this week, the editorial team have gone for Ederson, Gvardiol, Ake, Diaz, Walker, Kovacic, Rodri, Alvarez, Foden, Haaland, and Grealish. So
start Saliba then.
Saliba, yes, because Saliba's more likely to start. I don't think either team is going to keep a clean sheet, but Saliba's your X minutes guy. So you'll get 2 points for Saliba probably, and you'll probably get 1 for Lewis, and those 1 points can make all the difference.
2 more. Should I start Gabriel or Colwill? We've answered this about 8 times. Colwill. Foden or Jackson? Jackson, I'd go. But you'd go Foden probably.
I need more context. Like,
There's no more context.
This
is the beauty of this. There's no context.
But I mean, like for what captaincy, for first bench, which one of them is most likely to become a politician when they finish their career?
To start.
You mean
who
both.
should you start?
Both.
Foden or Jack? Both. Yeah, but
both.
Sorry, who should you say? Okay, say he's asking who should I transfer in here? I've got the option of Foden or Jackson.
Neither of them Roy transfer.
Which player do you prefer then, Foden or Jackson?
Okay, so
I'm breaking him, everyone. I'm breaking him.
Okay, if I had to choose one, and my life depended on it,
which it does,
then I would say get neither and roll the transfer. No, I'm joking. I would I'd go for Jackson because higher X minutes. Like I think Foden will start this week. But I think that what was going to happen is that Jackson will get like an assist or a goal against West Ham. He will just get an attack in return. And then everyone will look at the Chelsea fixtures for game week 3 and absolutely pile in. And so, I may be doing that myself, for example. So getting 1 week ahead on Jackson probably is more beneficial. I think Foden's usefulness is largely limited because I think we can largely predict the City team with like security and confidence in the first 4 matches because Pep doesn't rotate too much at this time of the season. We've seen that in the past, and there's no European fixtures. When the European fixtures kick in, then all of a sudden there's a decay on that trend in the sense that all of a sudden everybody's expected minutes at City goes down. And so Foden is more of a short-term pick, but Jackson is more of a long-term pick, so that's why I would go with him. But if I own neither of them, I would roll the transfer.
Okay, there we go.
I've got to shoot. Fight. So
thank you very much for having me, everyone. You can follow me on Twitter at BigTomD. Thanks very much. And I'm going to head off. Good luck, everyone. Game week 2. Yeah. David, you can continue speaking into the echo chamber of the YouTube.
I mean, I love it. I mean, it's to be honest, it's just what I do at home anyway. Just talk to the walls. So yeah, it's all good. So you're leaving me in a happy place. Don't worry.
Good. Bye.
Cheers, Ed. It's good to have you. Right. So keep your questions coming in, and of course, if you've got any super chats as well, then we'll definitely answer your question. If it's not a super chat, then we might answer your question. So we just want to help remind people of that the super chat is the best way to get some team advice. Hopefully, it was helpful there for Ed to come in and grill me on the subject of rolling transfers. Just roll your transfer if you can. That's the way to do it. The other thing is actually a request of a favour for you guys. Now, when I was on the stream last week, of course, famously missed out on the opportunity to get Gabriel out of my team because I was streaming, and obviously had Sonaldo in as well, who was also streaming with me, and we were trying to be as vigilant as possible, but we missed that opportunity to make some transfers based around what was going on in the wider world of football rumours. If you see something, please tell me. If you see something, get it in the chat and maybe give me a link as well, and I'll try and investigate things to the best of my ability whilst I'm running a stream to see if there is anything that we hear, perhaps maybe about tonight's game. There's a couple of you guys in the chat worried about Bulldog, for example, so we might get confirmation of him starting or not, perhaps coming from maybe some of the journalists at the City Ground who may have already seen the team sheet, because that can happen sometimes, or maybe they've spoken to the manager. That's something that sometimes they do. The TV and radio like to get their interview in the bag, and we'll usually interview the manager maybe half an hour to an hour before. And then it runs at a different time. So if we see something like that trickle out the City Ground, it might be able to help you. But if you see anything else, do let us know, because that will be very, very useful, especially for me. I'm being selfish now, to be honest. I just want to make sure that I just don't miss anything from my team, which I will now show in slightly more detail and talk through some of my different picks and the things that I'm thinking about. And so, yeah, I'll read it out for the benefit of anyone who can't watch right now and is just listening to this stream. We've got Turner in goal, Cash, Estupiñán, Chilwell as the back three, Rashford and Burmo, Diaby, Salah captained, and Saka as the five-man midfield, and then Pedro and Haaland up front. The bench is Flecken, Gabriel, Anderson, and Archer in that order. So the first little 50-50 that I've had to think about is, of course, Flecken versus Turner. Seen a few people worried about what to do with this in their teams. I think what is, in the end, going to turn me towards Forest is probably Sheffield United. Matthew Brewer says, Sheffield United owners vocal Twitter friend says Baldock is starting. That's good to know. Thank you for that. If you've got a link for that, Matthew, that would be really useful, because then I can have a look at it myself. Not to say that my judgment is any better than yours, of course, but I do like to see things with my own eyes. But then also, if it's good and it looks good, then we can get it up on the stream as well, and it just helps keep everybody informed in a nice, reliable way. So let me know there. Neil says, can you tell me if Gabriel is starting for Arsenal? Well, to answer that question, no, I can't. I am not in a position to tell you whether I think he's going to start. Well, I'm not in a position to tell you if he's going to start. I am in a position to tell you whether I think he will, and the answer is maybe. Should we go back to the predicted lineups actually for Arsenal, and we'll come back to my team, because let's be honest, my team's not necessarily the real measure of true skill. So, quick pointer towards the Fantasy Football Scout team news page, which, of course, you can access from the website for free. Right at the very top, under team news, predicted lineups. Every single predicted lineup is yours, absolutely free. Don't even need any kind of membership for this one. It's not behind a paywall. And what happens is every week is Neil, who works full-time in fantasy football, of course, he can just, as his day job, just go through every team sheet every week, have a look at what managers like to do in certain situations, and analyses what the managers say, and communicates with local journalists who have good, strong knowledge of the backroom, tittle-tattle at clubs sometimes, and sort of pulls all of that together in these predicted lineups, which, as far as I'm aware, in terms of the people who assess all of the predicted lineups out there, Neil has the best record every season, and that's never going to change, because he is a legend. And what he's got at the moment, they're not always completely set in stone. But they're quite often quite accurate. It's the injuries in a couple of other areas of the team that just perhaps increases Gabriel's chance of starting. He's got Ramsdale in goals, Zinchenko, Gabriel, Saliba, White, Rice, Partey, Ødegaard, Saka, Havertz, and Martinelli as the starting 11. Now, of course, it still stands. We can't tell you whether or not Gabriel is starting, but we can give you what we feel is most likely. We think that he probably is going to start. I'm maybe alone in thinking this, but I don't think Arsenal will keep a clean sheet this week. So I still think if you've got defenders on your bench, it's not the worst thing in the world to bench Gabriel, even though he is... Even if he's likely to start, I don't think Arsenal will necessarily keep a clean sheet. So yeah, it's worth thinking that. And of course, do keep an eye on these team news pages throughout the week because they update quite regularly, and you get the team news updates from our Twitter as well in terms of what they are based on. So let's head back to my team, and because I know there's a couple of people who are in situations who are similar to mine. So yeah, Turner over Flecken. It's a tricky one. As I said earlier, Fulham in game week 1 had just 2 shots on target against Everton, so I think there's a possibility of a clean sheet for Brentford. But I just thought the way that Sheffield United played against Crystal Palace and the fact they don't have a recognised centre forward who's like a first choice guy. I just think that's probably going to be the way to go. I'll probably regret it now. Flecken will probably save a penalty. In terms of what I'm doing with Gabriel and my team, maybe this helps people as well because there's loads of questions on Gabriel. I've gone with Cash over Gabriel. As I said before earlier on in the stream, I just think that Crystal Palace have enough in their attack to ruin that Gabriel clean sheet. Aston Villa, on the other hand, towards the back end of last season, were looking very good indeed. They had the highest number of clean sheets of any team in the final 12 matches. That's even more than Man City. Now, yes, they conceded 5 goals against Newcastle. I think there's a couple of mitigating factors there. The first being that they did lose Mings in the early part of that game, which maybe just sort of unsettled them and made it harder for them to recover from losing a key member of personnel. If they'd have lost Mings perhaps 3 days before and they were able to prepare for the game with the lineup they finished it with, maybe it wouldn't have been so messy for them. The high line also didn't help. The high line that they played against Newcastle did leave themselves a little bit exposed to the counter-attack, and so I think that 2 things here. Either Emery decides to play the line not so high against Everton, and then that's going to be useful. That's going to make them harder to beat. Alternatively, he persists with that high line, but it's only Everton, and I don't think Everton and Newcastle are in the same bracket, to be honest, in terms of teams that can punish a high line. I think if Villa play a high line here, I think they could win 3-0, because I just think that man for man, they're better than Everton, and playing a high line might help force the issue and get some attacking returns for Diaby and Watkins. And let's not forget that Cash actually was very, very advanced against Newcastle. It's kind of easy to forget that, because of course he did have a difficult time with Gordon, but he did miss a really big chance in a sort of striker's area where he was in the penalty box. So possibility of attacking returns. I just think that the ceiling for him is much higher than Gabriel. So that's what I'm doing with me. I know there's other people who have been asking about Cash. I think if you've got him and you've got Gabriel, you just start him. To be honest. Also on that subject, Misha Nadell says start Baldock, assuming he's playing over Gabriel. Yep, I would do that. I would absolutely do that for the reasons I've mentioned here already. I wouldn't be surprised if Sheffield United is a 0-0. To be honest. So, yeah, I think that's the way to go. We've got a question from Nick who says, is Ødegaard captaincy lunacy? I've got no Salah. And Arsenal most likely team to win. I would mildly disagree there. I think that when you look at Palace's Palace's defence, this is not going to be an easy game for Arsenal. Now, Arsenal may win it, but can you say with certainty that they will in a world where Crystal Palace defensively have been quite strong for some time? I don't think so. And so, if you've got Haaland, I just don't think you can captain anyone but him. To be honest, I think captaining an Arsenal player against Crystal Palace at Selhurst Park, first home game of the season, London derby, going to be up for this game. I just think that carries a lot of risk, if I'm honest. So I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. Katara says, what is the percentage of Gabriel playing? I mean, putting a specific number on it is a little bit difficult. All I can say is that the Fantasy Football Scout editorial team who do the predicted lineups have got Gabriel starting in their predicted lineup. So I would say he's probably going to start. But just ask yourself, do you think that this Palace attack can score against the Arsenal defence? I think they can. Now, I think what I'm probably going to do is I'm probably going to draw a line under Gabriel at this point, just for the interest of some people who've been watching right from the beginning are probably sick to death of me just talking about Gabriel. If you're joining us late and you've got questions about Gabriel, maybe if those of you in the chat can just let any latecomers asking questions about Gabriel know what I think of him, because I think he will know at this point now what I think of him. And we'll get in a second onto some other teams that have been sent in. But I'll just finish some of the things in my team that are worth thinking about. The only additional one, of course, is that Salah captaincy. As I said when I was talking to Ed, I think that the situation with him is that I felt that he was worth captaining for this Bournemouth game. The way that Bournemouth play is going to be high intensity, and I do think that's going to benefit Liverpool. Because when you try and play high intensity football against Liverpool, they are a team that are very, very good at high-intensity football, and I think that it's going to leave a lot of open space for Liverpool to exploit. I don't think it's going to be 9-0. I do think that this Bournemouth team is better than it was, but I still think there's goals here for Liverpool. Salah was very, very good in pre-season. I think it was 1 goal, 5 assists. His creativity has really shot up of late, and his assist against Chelsea was, chef's kiss, to be honest. It was brilliant. So I think he's got goal threat and he's got assist potential. Now, they switched Liverpool in game week 30 to this new system where they play Trent in a sort of midfield role and whatever you want to call it. I think they call it the 3-box-3, which sounds like a dance if you ask me, but apparently it's a football formation these days. When they switched to that, between game week 30 and 38, Salah was the top scoring FPL asset. So in a really positive fixture, I think that he's got a good opportunity to do well here. Either match or outscore Haaland, who of course is playing a Newcastle defence that you have to say is better than Bournemouth's on most days. So it's an opportunity. I think they're both good assets. If you've got Haaland, I don't think he's a bad captain by any stretch, but it's just, I've got Haaland, and lots of people don't have Salah. So it's an opportunity for me to maybe just squeeze past some of these people in the early part of the season and make a good start. If it backfires, it's not too late to make up for it by doing a few other things just to sort things out. It's early enough to take this risk, in my opinion. So that's what I'm thinking there. So let's go back to some of those rated teams. Some guys sent in their teams and had some questions about them. So let's see how they are looking. So this one is from Limitless Lex, and so I'm just going to head back to my Twitter notifications to discover what it was specifically they wanted me to ask them about their team. They've got Turner in goal as well, which I really like. I do think that starting him is a good idea against Johnston of Palace. I do think Arsenal are more likely to score than Sheffield United. And so, Limitless Lex wanted to know about their team. I just said RMT. Well, I've already kind of rated it to some extent. They've got Salah captain. I like that. Maddison, they're in early there. Back three of Estupiñán, Shaw and Chilwell looks good as well. So no Gabriel here. I don't know if they've necessarily taken a transfer, but I think this team is good to go. So Limitless Lex, if you're watching, I think this team is good to go. I think you're ready for game week 2. Don't make any more changes. Right, Junaid Ibrahim has submitted their team, and they no comment. There was no specific dilemma. So they've got Turner, Gabriel, Estupiñán, Chilwell. So they're actually going to go ahead and start Gabriel. We'll come back to that in a second. Bruno Fernandes, Saka, Matoma, Rashford, Luis Diaz, Haaland, and Pedro. I think this team's pretty good. You don't need to make any transfers, I don't think. I mean, Darwin on the bench, actually, now that I spotted it, is interesting. I think, should we head to the Liverpool starting lineup actually, because we've had a few questions about Liverpool starters, so let's just see what the team news guys were thinking there to perhaps answer that, because Diaz versus Darwin. Well, so the Liverpool team prediction lineup we've got from Neil and the guys. That's a reminder on my phone to set my team, by the way, because 6:15, you've got to be ready. So apologies if I deafened anybody with my alarm there. Right, Alisson in goal, Robertson, Van Dijk, Konate is a back three with Alexander-Arnold and McAllister as, now they're not number 6s, but they are in the 6 zone. Then Gakpo and Szoboszlai as the number 8s, Salah on the right wing, Diaz on the left wing, and Jota up front. There was someone a little while ago who asked about Jota. Well, the prediction from the editorial guys is that he's going to start. And I think if he's going to start, I think he's going to do well against Bournemouth. And so, I think going back to that team, it was Junaid's, I think. I can understand why you'd mention Darwin compared to who else you've got. I think roll the transfer, he says again, because you want to get rid of Darwin. You need to move him on. But you don't necessarily have to do it this week because your actual 11 is good enough, to be honest. I quite like it. And the only change I would make is I would take Gabriel out. I would put Baldock in. I think Baldock as your third sub is not a good idea. You definitely don't want Botman as your first sub. You want... Now, not everybody necessarily is au fait with this. There'll be some people who are. Apologies if you're watching this stream and thinking, I understand how to order a bench, David. Don't patronise me. Well, not everybody does. Botman needs to be your third sub because of these three guys, he's the one likeliest to score the fewest points, because City, if they do score a number of goals, could even end up with negative points. So he's got to be a third sub. Your most attacking player should always be your first sub if you're going to sub him. So Darwin should be your first sub. And then you want Baldock in the team instead of Gabriel, but that's just my personal opinion. You may hear other things from other people, but I just think Baldock's more likely to keep a clean sheet than Gabriel, and is still attacking in his own right. He had more passes received in the final third than any Sheffield United player in Game Week 1, so he is a part of that attack, and more so than Gabriel is part of Arsenal's. Baldock's got a better fixture, he's more attacking. For me, it's a no-brainer. Baldock in, Gabriel is his second sub, so then you'd have your sub bench would go Darwin, then Gabriel, then Botman. So hopefully that helps you, Junaid. So we'll move on to Maya Higger's team, and let's see what she wanted. She wanted some help with this team. Salah captaincy again, so it's nice to see yet a fellow Salah captainer join the stream. There was nothing here in terms of specific dilemmas other than just to wonder. Here we go. It was what do you do if you potentially have one at the back? That was it. It was the defence. Well, I think this question was probably fueled by these rumours surrounding Estupiñán. I think we've largely cleared up that they're not an issue. So first things first, Maya, I don't think you have to worry about Estupiñán. So that's one starter, and then Chilwell is two. Akanji, maybe there's a slight risk there, but I think the Baldock is pretty nailed on. So you don't. If your question is, are you nervous about having enough starters here? No, I don't think you need to be nervous. So your team can stay as it is. Don't need to make any transfers. So Turner, Chilwell, Akanji, Estupiñán. I'd probably swap Baldock for Akanji if I'm honest, because I think that Sheffield United are more likely to keep a clean sheet. Baldock more likely to start on Akanji. Fairly simple. Bruno Fernandes, Matoma, Saka, Foden, Salah captain. Strong midfield. Haaland and João Pedro as the strikers. Strong striker lineup there, and of course also quite meta as well. So it's going to protect you against other people. So I think that's quite good. Right, then our last rated team then, FPL d'Or, as in Ballon d'Or, but not Ballon d'Or, FPL d'Or. So FPL D''OR sent this team in. It's a 4-5-1, the lesser spotted 4-5-1. I haven't seen one of these in a very long time. And so the question here is, no question specifically, just an RMT. So if you're watching d'Or, first things first, I guess, well done for going for the 4-5-1. It's not tried very often, and I can't fault you for giving it a go. The players within it, not bad either. So Ramsdale, first things first, I'd put Turner in over Ramsdale because Ramsdale is probably going to start because he has the edge over Raya in terms of experience as an Arsenal player. Long term, who I think is going to be the number one Arsenal goalie? If it ended up being Raya, I wouldn't be surprised. I think he's a better goalkeeper in basically every department. Last season, he had a better save percentage than Ramsdale and had considerably more passes and passes completed as well. So he does basically everything as a goalkeeper better than Ramsdale does. So I think there's a mild risk there for this week, but I think longer term, I think you may need to resolve Ramsdale. But either way, if Ramsdale is going to start, as I keep saying, I do just think that Nottingham Forest more likely to keep a clean sheet at home to Sheffield United than Arsenal are away at Crystal Palace. So I'd sort that out. But your back four, I quite like. Shaw, I think he's going to get attacking returns against Spurs because they're going to leave a lot of space. Chilwell and Gusto, while it's mildly risky to double up on the Chelsea defence, I think you can't really turn your nose up at a 4 million Chelsea wingback, so why not? Give it a go. Estupiñán is a bit of a no-brainer. Matoma, Saka, Fernandes, Salah and Maddison is a strong five-man midfielder, and of course you can't really fault Haaland up front. And your bench is, I'd probably... It's tricky to know who to put. Botman's the most likely to start, but he's also the most likely to just have his score whacked by City. So I think I'd probably put Archer as the first sub, just in case he comes on as a sub for Aston Villa, and they've got the easiest fixture of those three. So that's probably how I would tweak that team. And of course, Salah captaincy, I think that's the way to go. If you had Salah from the start, then you've got to back yourself. You've got to back yourself. So that's what I would do there. Hopefully those teams have helped you guys with your dilemmas. I haven't been keeping an eye on the chat while I've been going through that, but I'm just going to drop back into the chat to pick up a final few more questions. We've got 10 minutes until the deadline. If you're joining me thinking you've got 25 minutes, you haven't. You've got 9 minutes now because the deadline tonight is 6:15 p.m. UK time. So yeah, let's get those teams sorted. We've got 9 minutes to go. So let's have a look. MM is asking about Rashford. Rashford looks really bad as a number 9. I think you're right. I think he's better off playing in wide areas. If United can in game week 2. Maybe give Sancho the nod, which is what actually Neil and the guys in the editorial department are predicting. Sancho up front. I think that's better for Rashford. He's a considerably better option for United as a wide forward. And if he is a wide forward against Spurs, I think he's going to do really well. I've got Rashford in my team. I'm going to hold him because I just think that there's going to be attacking returns in this game. This arguably suits Rashford better than the Wolves game, because Wolves are just a team more likely to throw everyone behind the ball. Spurs are going to throw everybody forward. It's going to be a lot of space to exploit. So I think Rashford is the way to go. Lee Duxbury says, who are the best second strikers after Haaland? Well, there's a couple of options here. I think you have to sort of take into consideration the fixtures in many respects. But just to list off a few, I think João Pedro is good at the moment. I'm just going to head to the season ticker, which is in the members area. So a bit of a live demonstration here in many ways. Season ticker. If you haven't sorted out your Scout membership, you've got about 8 minutes to do it before the Game Week 2 deadline. But it doesn't matter. Even if you sort it out later tonight, you can use it for Game Week 3. It's not going to be a problem. So let's just go for the next 6 matches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So Game Weeks 2 to 7, attack and sort by difficulty. This should tell us teams to look at. So Chelsea top of the list. So Jackson, I think, has to be in the conversation. Arsenal's fixtures are still good. So Nketiah, if he can hold down a place, maybe, but perhaps a bit of a minute's risk. Brentford's fixtures still good as well, as you can see. 4th best fixtures here. And so, Visser, I think, is still going to offer some good value as well. He got some bonus points against Spurs too. Richarlison is going to probably be a centre forward for Spurs, but of course is an FPL midfielder, so a bit of a cheeky answer there. And then I think Watkins and Pedro, it's worth pointing out that if you want to have them, you need to get them sooner rather than later, which is not me necessarily saying break your team to get them in, but you can see from the season ticker that their fixtures sort of expire in many ways. They get to a point when you go, okay, not so interested there. With Aston Villa, Everton and Burnley, the next 2 look really nice, but then Liverpool away, Palace at home, and Palace, as I've said before, decent defence, Chelsea away, so 3 really nasty fixtures for Villa from Game Week 4. So Game Week 4 could be a good time to offload Watkins into somebody else. For example, with Brighton, Wolves and West Ham, the next 2 games that I think you can largely expect goals from, but Newcastle and United in Game Weeks 4 and 5 less so. The Bournemouth game again in Game Week 6 is nice, but then Villa away Game Week 7, and Newcastle game notwithstanding, their defence has been pretty good. So focus on the teams that have the better fixtures. I think that Jackson probably needs to be higher up the list than some of those others, just because you always want to be looking forward, and he's got the best sort of future in the short term ahead of him. Nathan Evans says, should I start João Pedro or Mbeumo? I think you want to be trying to start both of them. They both look very good. So if you've got other people in your team who are benchable, I think, as I said, I don't want to put people in difficult positions, but if we're trying to help everybody just get better from one week to the next, if you're having these decisions to make where you want to bench a 5.5 million striker or a 6.5 million midfielder, I think your team could do with slightly better balance. And so it depends what else you've got going on in your team. Maybe there's someone else you can get benched, but I think that in future, tweak that team to maybe not have that dilemma. But if you want to, this week, I'd probably go pair. It's a tricky one. I think I'd go. That's hard. So Mbeumo is playing Fulham, and João Pedro is playing Wolves. Okay, I would go for Mbeumo because Fulham actually conceded a ridiculous amount of XG against Everton, of all teams. And so I think that just means Brentford have the better fixture. I think they'll both score, if I'm honest. But maybe Mbeumo gets more because he's facing this Fulham defence that is slightly less capable. So we've got 5 minutes to go until that deadline. I am just going to check my team to check I've got everything in order. I need to check that all of the decisions I've made I'm happy with because, as I said last week, ended up in a situation where I wasn't happy. Wasn't happy having Gabriel on my team, and I missed out on the opportunity to sort it out. So I think Turner over Flecken. I think that's what I'm going to go with. And then, it's the only other one is Salah captaincy. Yeah, I think it's Turner versus Flecken is the one that I'm most nervous about. And actually, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do one thing that I said I was going to do, and then I actually ran out of time. For those of you, there'll be other people who are thinking about Turner. I wanted to have a look at what Forest did away from home last season, team stats. And this is another opportunity to show off the Fantasy Football Scout members area. Let's go 22-23 season, all home matches, and just see how well they actually did at home defensively. Goals conceded, Nottingham Forest at home last season, 24. Okay. 6 clean sheets at home. So relatively mid-table. So that's actually not bad. That's not bad at all. And so then let's compare that with all away matches. So 24 goals conceded and 6 clean sheets for Forest. Can Brentford do better than that? Away from home, Brentford 5 clean sheets and 28 goals conceded. I think that's all I needed to know. That's all I needed to know, to be honest, because I think Flecken is not quite as good as Raya, so I think that the Brentford defence isn't as good as it was, but it's still good. I think that they've got a little bit of work to do before I can guarantee clean sheets every week. And Forest at home, 6 clean sheets and 24 goals conceded. I think that's enough to help me think that they're capable, because the fixture is good for them. It's just, do we think that they can actually capitalise on it? I think from what I've seen there, I think there's enough to suggest that they can. They were so bad away from home last season, it was easy to think that they're bad all the time. But yeah, it's nice just to be able to check through that and make a final decision. So yeah, I think that means that my team is locked in. I think that's a locked in team. Salah captaincy, Haaland vice captain, Gabriel first sub, Anderson second sub. Actually, do you know what? I'm just going to tweak the substitutes, because I think that Anderson's more likely to play, and I like his playing style. I think he could get some attacking returns, maybe. So I'll just make that slight tweak, just in case it matters. Hopefully it won't. Yeah, I think I'm locked in. Let us know in the chat if you're locked in as well. Let's have some lock emojis if your team's locked. We want to see the chat flooding with locks. Nathan Crook says Rashford or Matoma. I think Rashford's your best bet this week. I'm going to try and answer as many of these as I can as quickly as possible as the deadline comes in. Vissa or Bruno? Bruno, I think United are going to do really well this week. I think this game is going to suit their style quite well. Bradley O'Reilly says, who's the best captain? If you've got Salah, I think it's him. You've got to take the opportunity, because a lot of other people are going to go Haaland, but I think Salah has a good chance of outscoring him. If you don't have Salah, it's Haaland. That's a nice, easy one. Very nice-ish says, would you start Udogie against United instead of Gabriel? Yes, I would, because Udogie's higher chance of minutes, decent attacking potential, whereas Gabriel can only really offer it from set pieces and may not even start. So that's what I would do. Luke Ryan says, Eze or João Pedro? Well, for all that I've said about Arsenal defence not being reliable for clean sheets, it's still not terrible, and therefore I don't think Palace are going to score a ton of goals here. However, I do think that the way that Brighton are playing would suggest that Pedro is going to score more goals against Wolves and Eze is against Arsenal, so I'd go Pedro there. Snorkers says, locked. So welcome to the lock clubs. Nice to have you. BB says Akanji or Colwill. I will probably go Colwill because he's a higher chance of starts and has a better fixture. West Ham, I think, are less likely to score than Newcastle are, because I think they're pretty good. Madman YT says Pedro or Eze. Just answered that to Luke's question as well. I think Eze is the way to go. I think Pedro is the way to go over Eze. Luke Rigger says Maddison or Rashford. I think that's a tricky one. I think it sort of depends on the scenario. If I was to pick one out who scored the most points this week, I think let's go Rashford. I just think this game is going to suit United, to be honest. Mabs Rahman says start Diaz or Bruno Fernandes. Bruno Fernandes, that's an easy one. Very nice just says he's now locked. Great, good to have you in the lock club. Mishandel's locked as well. Harry Wannell says Alvarez or Jackson. I would go Jackson, more likely to start, better fixture. Chris H says Saka captain over Haaland. Here we go. Okay, well, and the deadline's passed. There we go. The deadline is through. It's done. There we go. So now it is too late to solve any of those problems that you've got. Hopefully if there's anything that's broken on Twitter in the last 5 minutes that I've missed, please let me know so I can spend the rest of my evening regretting my life choices. Couple of other bits. Josh says Gakpo will score. Yeah, I think he probably will. I think he'll do quite well this week. Mariano, of course, is now locked as well, as we all are. He went with Rashford, plus Ødegaard, Richarlison and Saka. I like that. That sounds good to me. So yeah, now that you're all locked, let us know what choices you went with, what captaincies you went with, what you did with your subs as well. Importantly, let us know what you did with Gabriel, because I'm going to allow Gabriel to come back to the table for the final 10 minutes of this stream, just so we can understand what people did with him. And as I said, if you've spotted anything on social media that I've missed, do let me know, because I do want to know. It's useful to know these things. So yeah, well done everybody. Well done everyone for getting through the the second deadline of the season. These Friday game week deadlines are coming thick and fast. Now we've got another one next week and the next week, so get used to these. We'll be streaming every Friday from 4:30 until that deadline, hopefully with a guest each time. But it's nice to spend some time, one-on-one time with chat sometimes. It's nice. Josh Forster said that he started Gabriel. Well, fingers crossed for you to some extent, and I want your team to do well, but I've benched him, so also fingers crossed that he doesn't do well. That's the situation I find myself in. But let me know, Josh, how you feel about that. Is that a decision you're nervous about? Mishandel went Baldock over Gabriel, fingers crossed. I think that's probably what I would have done if I owned both of those players. Mariano sold Gabriel early for Botman and has got some money in the bank. Okay, yeah, no, I like that. It could help you upgrade in other areas next week, so good stuff. While we just sort of ease down and get ready to enjoy this evening's game, it's not televised in the UK, so you will have to listen to it on the radio. If you've enjoyed the stream, if you found it useful, perhaps if you enjoyed having some time with a bona fide celebrity in Tom Davis earlier on, give us a like. If you enjoyed time with the not so bona fide comedian that was Ed, give us a like as well. And if you find any of this information useful, then hit the like button so that we know that you enjoy this content on a Friday. Subscribe to the channel as well and hit that bell notification so you don't miss any other videos. We've got so much stuff coming up in the next couple of days. On Saturday evening, you can join Karam with FPL stats of the day. He's going to go over all of the match stats from the first few matches of the game week. So that's the Friday night game, everything that happened on Saturday. So all of those conclusions that we can draw from games down to a very statistical level, as well as some eye testings as well. You're going to have all of that information at your fingertips on Saturday evening so that you can start thinking about things more clearly and more accurately throughout the rest of the week. You are also going to be treated with the first appearance of the current winner of FPL, Ali Yahangarov, or FPL Guns as you know him on Twitter, on his new show, FPL Winners. He was going to be on it last week, but some unforeseen circumstances unfortunately meant that I had to fill in for him. It's a big shoes to fill. But him and Gianni are going to be live from 7 p.m. UK time on Sunday, discussing the talking points from those weekend games in more detail than Karen will have the opportunity to on Saturday night, and then also it's the Sunday games as well, which are super, super important. So don't miss that either. There's just so much stuff coming up. And then, of course, from Monday, we'll have Burning Questions and the Scoutcast. On Tuesday, we'll have another episode of General's Orders, and we'll also have Captaincy video, and the content never stops. We have at least 2 videos every day. And if YouTube is not the one for you, you prefer your podcast platforms, of course, you will be able to find us on all of the main podcast platforms. We've got podcasts of all of the videos we're doing. We're putting them in podcast form so you can download them and listen to them on the move as well, which is super, super important. Chris H went for Saliba over Gabriel, so hasn't had that dilemma. Well done. I'm going to guess that you were paying more attention than I was last Friday. I'm guessing, Chris, you weren't doing a stream. Because, that's the only thing that stopped me from being in the same boat. So I envy you big time. So well done there. Mac at FPL went for Colwell over Gabriel. I like that. I just think that starting someone who isn't Gabriel is the way to go. Snorkers bench Gabriel. My defensive choices were limited and I wanted to bank my transfer. Welcome to the team, Ethan Pinnock. Yeah, not bad. I think a Brentford defender against Fulham is a way to go. Josh Forster says, no, not really. I've started Gabriel because of Timber injured. Oof, okay. Yeah, so it's needs must in many ways. Well, Game Week 2 is often like that. Game Week 2 is often like needs must. Let's just get through the game week, get those transfers banked, and and then we can really make some big decisions on some good data after that. Eng7 Iceman, I don't know if that's the Iceman, the former host, I guess, of FPL Surgery and my Team's House teammate. If that is you, Iceman, hello. What you've said is, let's go Haaland team. Some might mean Man City, might mean people who've captained Haaland. I hope Haaland blanks this week because I'm a Salah captain. Sorry. We've got Raunak Chidari says, should I start Turner or Edison? Unfortunately, you have actually missed the deadline. The deadline was at 6:15 today. That probably sounds like I'm joking, but unfortunately, I'm not. The deadline was 15 minutes earlier just because the Forest game just kicked off that little bit soon. Is going to kick off that little bit sooner than usual. So I'm really sorry that you've missed that. It's just that's how it goes sometimes. You got to keep an eye on those pesky deadlines. Porth Lewis, we've got some other questions. Unfortunately, I can't answer your questions because the deadline has passed, but I will answer your question as if the deadline hasn't passed, just so I'm at least being kind. Says, bench one of these, Havertz, Rashford or Jackson. I probably would have bench Havertz of those 3. Nick Lee says, I started Trossard over Andreas Pereira. That was a mistake, wasn't it? Not necessarily. I mean, Trossard, incredibly, has a really good minutes per attacking return ratio. I don't know what it is off the top of my head, but basically in the last 12 game weeks of last season, the Arsenal player with the most attacking returns was Trossard with 8. And so the fact that he wasn't starting games wasn't necessarily a problem because he's quite good at coming on and getting something. He's a very good super sub right now. So even if he doesn't start, might get something. So don't worry too much, Nick. I don't think that was a mistake. Fulham's attack didn't look amazing against Everton, just 2 shots on target. So I think that I would have probably done the same if I had to bank one of those 2. Nick has also rolled the transfer, benching Stone, Salah captain, Haaland vice. That's my man. That's a roller right there. That's what I want to see. People benching the injured players and selling them next time. That's the way to go. Roundneck says, who would you have gone for, though, Turner or Edison? Turner. I'd have gone for Turner because I just think that he's got a better fixture. And, City clean sheets. They're going to come in the games against the minnows, but against a team like Newcastle, who are quite good on the counter-attack, I do think Newcastle will score. So I would have gone Turner there. And I've obviously gone for Turner as well. Roynish Jabot says, I think I've benched Turner for Steele just then. My guess is that it was going down to the wire, and that's why you weren't too sure. Nick says, in terms of what I've said, that was my thinking. I felt prudent to roll and trust my Game Week 1 picks. Yeah, that's, I think, a sensible bet. Well, with the deadline passed, and all of those teams locked in now, I think I'm gonna shoot off, and I think I'm gonna get ready for this Forest Sheffield United game with my newly found Sheffield United fandom. All of us backing this Turner goalkeeper situation. So I'm gonna call it a night there. Thank you to everybody who's joined us for the stream, both in terms of the guests and also the comments as well. It's been great chatting with you. Thank you for your questions. It's been brilliant. As I said, every Friday we will be having every Friday there's a deadline. We'll have a stream, and every Saturday we'll have one as well. Before I leave, one final reminder: if you've enjoyed looking at some of the tables that I've shown you, or some of the tools, or maybe some of the data that I've passed on has been helpful for some of your decisions, a lot of that has come from the Fantasy Football Scout members area. It is not too late to sign up. It's never too late to sign up, as Ed said. You can save up to 30% on those preseason prices, and you still can, because that offer's been extended past the Game Week 1 deadline. You're going to get world-leading preseason information. Well, sorry, no, you won't get that. I'm looking at the wrong thing here. You won't get the preseason stuff because it's already done, but you will get the points projections, the team transfer planner, and the drafts from the best fantasy managers around, including some former winners. All of that all those tables and tools that I sometimes show you screen grabs of, you can go in and manipulate that yourself, and you can play with it yourself and find out as much information as you want to answer your questions, and then you don't have to listen to me and wait for me to answer your question in the chat. It's very, 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 very useful. So yeah, get yourself signed up now. Thank you for the kind comments in the chat as well. You guys are all gents, dames, ladies, all of you very polite. It's great to spend some time with you. I love doing these streams. It's a lot of fun. But yeah, with that, I will leave you fine, folks, to enjoy Game Week 2. Make sure you tune into the content that's covering that as it's happening. Make sure you tune into the Game Week 3 content as it starts from Monday. And I will see you on the other side. Cheers, guys. See you next week.